Thank you. I have notes tonight. My teleprompter is heat sensitive, so I don't like to go off that teleprompter. I met Shelly in 2005 at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference. He used to commandeer the most popular late night workshop called the Pirate Workshop, which went into all hours of the night. So I would sign up to read there and then end up leaving after midnight not reading because I was so far down on the list. He would remember my name on the reading list and would harangue me by day. Talley, your name was called at 2 a.m. What happened? Where were you? Asleep, actually. In 2016, I attended Shelly's signing for Love Will Make You Drink and Gamble, Stay Out All Night. Still one of my favorite story collections. And if you study it, it's a guide to writing literary fiction with humor, action, and innovation. Shelly breaks rules in his writing, and you're damn glad he did. For over 3 decades, he taught students at University of Southern California, then as a visiting professor at UCSB, and more recently at Schott Center, teaching, inspiring, and sometimes confounding hundreds and hundreds of writers. Shelly does not suffer fools gladly. And why should he? To interview him once for a mini-book, Dames and Doppelgangers, I sat in on one of his classes. I saw him slam the table with his hand and explain to a novice writer that fiction should involve eccentric, driven characters who compel us to follow along with their pursuits, whether we like them or not. Captain Ahab, Sherlock Holmes, the narrators of Edgar Allan Poe, none are noted for their congeniality or bedside manner. I became a contributing writer-editor for the Lunar Review in 2016, which Shelly was the editor-in-chief of. It was an obscure online journal. Unlike most literary journals, they didn't trumpet their name or share writing on social media. No, Lunar Review is more a whispered secret among its staff. Quality writing for those who could navigate through the vast wasteland of the internet and somehow find it. It all ended in tears when the plug was pulled suddenly in 2018. After that time, we both served as junior editors on the Santa Barbara Literary Journal, if the term junior can be applied to either of us. I'm constantly astounded that Shelly is always reading, always thinking up new ideas for novels, and continuing his Matt Bender stories. Like Dickens or local writer T.C. Boyle, it's nearly impossible to keep up with all of his writing. Not only that, he's written 2 westerns. He's written under various pseudonyms, both male and female. Romance novels, crime, and 2 westerns as Ralph Barstow, another by Clem Feldspar. You can find his westerns at the literary emporium known as Walmart. When I try to get my own books carried there, I'm swiftly shown the parking lot by security. And since Shelly wrote a few pulp novels in the early 60s, it feels like full circle now with his new collection, Struts and Frets, from Caveman Adventure Library. This resembles one of those pocket-sized Signet paperbacks that used to fill my father's closet when I was just a kid. So prepare to enjoy the humorous, shambling, unexpected adventures of Matt Bender, a struggling actor who should know better, but often doesn't. It's an honor to introduce Shelly Lowenkopf. If a few bridges got burned along the way, then hike up your pants and prepare to wade through the rapids. You may get soaked, but it'll be worth it in the long run. Shelly Lowenkopf.
It appears now that I'm going to be the anchor man in this relay. You know, Mike introducing Mac, who's introducing me. I want to introduce Michael Pfeffer, my publisher. Because he, in a real sense, made this happen, and he's just been a delight to work with. It reminds me one of my favorite jokes that my literary agent likes to tell. She calls a client and says, there's good news and there's bad news. And I say, well, let's start with the bad news. And she said, well, the bad news is you're being published. Because, and it takes those of you who have gone through it. Melody will tell you a few stories about what happens after your manuscript is accepted. Michael was a joy to work with, and I like to think I've found a home. And I also like to think that on the way, we can get Mac into this, and I will be introducing him for his next novel. But thank you.
Thank you,
Michael.
Shelly. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. There's one more person I need to introduce you to. He first appeared in that first collection of short stories that Mac was waving around called Love Will Make You Drink and Gamble, Stay Out Late at Night. And it was the first appearance of an actor, a local actor by the name of Matt Bender. The only thing I knew about him when I started writing is that he was given a lifetime ban on an establishment here in Santa Barbara. Now, I know some of you are going to think, oh, the Wildcat Lounge or even Mel's, but no, this is a coffee shop. Can you imagine an actor being banned from a coffee shop? Well, if you follow through here, you'll see that it's likely to happen to him again. But here he is, and I didn't want to have anything more to do with him, but you know how actors are, and he kept reappearing at the strangest times of my life and pestering me and saying, "You've got to tell my story. You've got to tell him about the time I." So I did. There's one other person I want to introduce you to here. As you will see if you look in the table of contents, a fellow by the name of Anton Chekhov. There are 2 stories in here that have his name in them. And those of you who write and read a lot of writing and teach reading about writing know the concept of the Chekhov gun, meaning whenever there's a gun on the wall in a story or a play, it has to go off. Well, I want to read to you from a story here called Chekhov's Croissant. It goes somewhat like this. Bender didn't recognize either of the checkers at the 7-Eleven. He figured the older of the 2 for the shift manager, put the request to him. "You serious, mister? Nobody comes here looking for that." "Bought them here before," Bender said, "more than once." "You sure you got the right place?" "Our people, they came here for pizza slices, hot dogs, the occasional ramen bowl, items to heat up in the microwave, eat here or in their cars. Working class people get 30-minute lunch breaks." He shot Bender a scowl of disapproval. "Guys like you, they come in, ask for stuff like that, they get more than 30 minutes for lunch." "You're better off in a bakery," the other checker said. Bender made him for a college kid who would not eat here. "Reno's, D'Angelo's," he hitched a nod across the street, "even at the lighthouse." "Yeah," Bender said, "but they all close at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon." "Let me guess," the young checker said. "You went for dinner at the Mesa Cafe. A couple of their stiff drinks. Suddenly a croissant gets in your mind, becomes all you can think about." Convoluted logic, but yeah, the kid understood. Something like that. "I get it," the young checker said. "Totally." "Telling you," the ship manager said, "no croissants, not on our shelves." No point insisting he'd bought croissants here before, much less confessing, however it sounded, that he'd had croissants at places the young checker mentioned, plus the croissants at Handlebar, Dune, and Pete's. Nothing to be served expounding on the chemistry that caused him to favor the $2.39 7-Eleven croissants. The 7-Eleven croissants of Bender's memory fit the shape of upmarket croissant, exuded a buttery enough taste to eat without the dollop of strawberry preserves served at Michel Richard in Beverly Hills. They approached the lightness of Reno's croissants here in Santa Barbara, and the mystique of Gentron Cherrier croissant in his famed 18th arrondissement Paris cafe. A mountain goat leap beyond rational 7-Eleven croissants. A first kiss. A first date achieved with an inaccessible someone. A first love. A taste for fucking 7-Eleven croissants. He already knew the closest 7-Eleven, Mission at the foot of State Street, where the shelves conveyed familiarity, opened him to the third-degree interrogation techniques of his culture and outlook. Even at this hour, 7-Eleven buzzed with customers. The aisles a clutter of patrons in search of items they'd forgot earlier at Gelson's. Bender made for the pastry section by the rear door, heard his name called, turned to see the manager toss a head shake intended to mean no, yet another gesture with his hands to show he had no control of the situation. What, Randy? Bender said. Gone, Randy said. All of them. That guy from Goleta, Wilson, comes in here regular, buys whatever I got on hand, freezes some for later. You could try that. Save you the disappointment. Elegant dresser. Still wears neckties, bushy mustache. Good eye there, Bender. Wilson, not Wilson. This very night, half hour before you came. More gestures of helplessness from Randy. A toss of his head. Isn't like I haven't made it plain to corporate on my inventory notes. Isn't like I haven't told them they could move 3-4 dozen croissant a week here. Guys like you and Wilson, only the tip of the iceberg. Corporate doesn't feel the cultural variety we get here. He sucked at a tooth. The clientele that come here for the croissant. Wolfson, Bender said. See what I mean? A cultural thing, you and Wilson. Same level. You know more about him than I do. You both come here for croissants. Half the people who come here, I couldn't give a croissant away. Randy started to say more, but a voice with the bark of a seal stopped him. Okay. Hand up your sticks, everybody. This is a fuck up. Nobody move. Drawn to the voice, Bender turned, saw two men in the middle. What the hell is that? Randy said. Individuals from the cultural melting pot, one of whom has dyslexia, about to rob us. Confirmation from another individual, also masked. He stood inside the front door alcove. Bender caught the note of irritation when he spoke. Listen up. That's my partner's way to announce stick-up time. Showed a pistol to enhance his communication skills. My colleague will pass among you for your valuables. He waved the pistol at Randy. You, sir, will place the contents of both registers in one of these handy carry-out bags. What my colleague meant. You follow instructions, nobody gets hurt. We clear on that? He didn't like the response he got, fired a warning shot into the ceiling, caused a moth-like flutter of debris. Bender took in the way the robber's performance evolved. All three wore Ricky Ricardo masks that covered their entire head. Nice touch, that. The cops who took witness reports would get the victim's impression that they'd been held up by perpetrators who looked like Desi Arnaz. They also were smaller. They also wore similar jogging suits. Two of the three sported Nikes. The other wore New Balance, an accident or a shrewd way to skewer witness accounts. The Ricky Ricardo who'd revised the bungle opening lines remained near the front door against any surprises. From his vocabulary, Bender guessed he had some college. The other two supervised cleaning out the cash registers, moving among the customers for wallets, cash, and jewelry. The Ricky Ricardo who approached Bender gave him a long appraisal. His mask offered no chance for Bender to read his motivation. Gun in his left hand, carry-out bag in the other, his choices of gestures limited, he called out to his colleague at the front door. "You gotta see this, Milo." He waved his gun toward Bender. "The fuck I tell you about using names," called from across the room. "They'll never remember. If they hear your name, they'll remember. Trust me." More waving of the gun toward Bender. "I think we got Billy Baldwin here." "You think everybody's Billy Baldwin. Will you please have a look?" Bender said, "I'm not Billy Baldwin," loud enough for Ricky Ricardo at the front door to hear his own Ricky Ricardo actually saw Billy Baldwin in here one night. He lived up by the mission then. Came in for milk. Good move on your part. You remember him like that. 2-3 people here, they'll swear they saw him when the cops take their statements. The Ricky Ricardo at the door, Milo, approached, slammed his palm against his colleague's shoulder. "What did I tell you about focus on the job? Won't happen again, Milo." "Unbelievable," Milo said. He stood his ground for a moment, his deliberation hidden under his mask. He followed with another whack to his colleague's shoulder. "You have any idea who this dude is?" He pointed his gun at Bender. "The fuck's going on with you two?" Exasperation from the third Ricky Ricardo mask. "Need I remind you? We got the chicken man here." Milo pumped his elbow to mimic Bender's on-screen gesture. Head mask or not, easy for Bender to read the third robber's sagged shoulders. "That tears it," he said. "I'm done with you two. I don't care if you got the Dalai Lama, you understand? We came here to rob a store." "Bender," Milo said. "Spokeschicken for the chicken waffle commercials. The guy in the chicken suit. Mort Bender." "OMG," the dyslexic robber said. "Bender," Bender said. "Matt Bender." The dyslexic robber made a quick scan of the room, moved to the coffee dispenser, swooped down on a pile of paper napkins with the 7-Eleven logo, brought one back to Bender. "What?" Bender said. "Autograph. You to me." "Ah, for Christ's sake," the third robber said. "Your name?" Bender said. "Farquhar. 2 A's and 1 H. "For Christ's sake," the third robber said. "Bender, here for croissants." A day like this reminded him of times not too long ago when he scrounged through his kitchen trash for Chemex grounds huddled in their soggy filters, hopeful he could coax out one more cup of coffee. The usual drill now is Q&A. Anybody got a Q&A? Good, I'm glad to hear that. I think you're all wonderful. I appreciate you for not having any Q&A. Thank you.